Everyone. Thank you, Kirsten, for all of the work you're doing with all of these trainings and all of your staff there at ISU. Thank you to the trade unit for assisting in getting these presentations and the documents in the best shape they can be. And thanks all of you for attending. Appreciate that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started on our training today for waivers. Put any questions you have in the chat. Susan and the other trade unit staff will be monitoring the chat for us today and answering questions as they can. We're working on the chat from last week. We will hopefully have it posted by the end of tomorrow. So we're talking about waivers today. The fundamental component of trade is training. However, some participants may be eligible for a waiver if they're unable to enroll in the training by their 2626 or their 816 deadline, and 816 is for the 2021R participants. And what that deadline is, it's to establish keep their eligibility for the Trade Readjustment Assistance, TRA, income payments. So just keep that in mind, that waivers can be issued for people who, for one reason or another, may not be able to meet that deadline. They do have to meet one of the 3 waiver criteria that we do have on our waivers and that are in the regulations for trade. And if for some of you, I know we've covered this deadline several times, but just to reiterate, the 2626 or the 816 deadline is defined as the latter of the last day of the 26th week or the 8th week for 2021R after the week in which the certification was issued, and that's supposed to be or the last day of the 26th week or the 16th week for the 2021R after the participant's most recent qualifying separation. So just, it sounds confusing, but just remember it's 26 weeks after certification or 26 weeks after their layoff date or the 816 if they're a 2021R participant. And while on a waiver, participants must still actively seek employment, and they also must accept any offers of suitable employment. If they don't, and you find out about it, then we have to revoke the waiver right away, and they don't get their TRA anymore. But they do have to look for work and accept suitable employment. Initially, waivers are issued for a period of 60 days. They can be extended, but they cannot exceed 6 months worth of time or the period of basic TRA eligibility that they have. And 30-day reviews are required to maintain that eligibility for TRA during that waiver period. Everyone can only get 1 waiver per certification, and they cannot be issued after a participant enrolls in training, because once they've enrolled in training, they will have been they've met their enrollment in training requirement. And the training plan must be developed before a waiver can be issued and approved by state merit staff. So you need to have all the necessary forms. They have to be basically accepted into the training institution for the training program that they are wanting to enroll in. The TRA eligibility deadline still applies, or the eligibility, there can meet eligibility through extenuating circumstances. So what I'm going to do now is walk through basically the waiver form itself. I've sectioned it off into different pieces just to kind of cover each section. So the first section on the waiver form is the participant information. You want to complete all the information that you can for this participant. Most people don't have a home phone number anymore, so obviously you can leave it blank if they don't have one. And this section is from the Form 003 Illinois Waiver from Training. It is the one that would be used for participants who are being served under a petition number up to 97,999. So this is just basic information about the participant, what OE is serving them, their last 4 of their social, what date is this form being filled out, what is their name, their address, phone numbers, email address. So for a waiver, it can only be issued if that participant has a fully developed training plan in place. And the next section asks the question about a training plan, and enrollment has to take place at the next available enrollment period. So they have to be accepted into that training program at the training institution they want to attend. You must have a completed Form 14, which is the IEP, a completed Form 6, which is verification of trade training enrollment. And we will go through that form in a couple of weeks when we cover our training, and a completed Form 5, the eligibility for trade travel subsistence assistance, along with a Google Maps printout, and that form will be covered in 2 weeks as well when we cover training. Completed Form 006D or the Form 06E, depending on the type of program that they're in. That's the training program tracking form, and those will be covered in 2 weeks as well. The 6 criteria for training case note must be entered. We will go through a sample case note in a couple weeks when we cover training. And those all need to be uploaded. Those forms need to be uploaded to IWDS, but when you send the waiver in as well for approval. So right here is the training plan question. It's next on the form. And if that question is answered no, then we cannot approve the waiver. They have to have a training plan developed in order for us to issue the waiver. And this again is the same, it's a section from the waiver form that would be for participants covered under petitions up to 97,999. The next section is certification information. This is the information about the actual petition, the certification document. You're going to obtain any information to complete the section from the actual certification document and your IBIS printouts. The dates must be verified with the IBIS TRA claim details and your UI basic claim inquiry printouts. And the dates in this section and on the IBIS documents and the TAA additional info screen in IWDS, they must match. So make sure that you verify all of that information when you're filling these out. They have to match. So this is the certification information section from that same form that covers petitions up to 97,999. You're going to put your certification number, which is your petition number, some people call it, your name of your worker group, your location of your worker group, what's the certification date of the petition, the impact date, your expiration date, and your qualifying separation date. The next section is your eligibility. And this is the one for petitions up to 97,999. So you need to make sure you check which one of these items they used to meet the eligibility. If they did it with the 26th week from the certification or 26th week from separation, it would only be one of these two. Or if there were extenuating circumstances that there was used to meet the deadline. So in this case, for petitions up to 97,999, you have 4 types of extenuating circumstances that can be used. You have your 45 days, you have your 60 days upon proper notification, your federal good cause, or equitable tolling. And if you mark any of those extenuating circumstances, you must put a justification in this box here as to how that is being met with by, what's the justification for it and what kind of documentation do you have to support using that circumstance. The 26th week deadlines can be determined with your trade date grid or date finder. There's a couple of versions of that date finder. That one of them is for someone who has a 26/26 deadline and one of them who has an 8/16 deadline. We will post those later. I'm trying to work on an updated version of that to include all of those dates, so you won't have to use a separate form depending on which participant you're working with and which petition they're certified under. Again, your extenuating circumstances must be documented and justified. So for the eligibility section for someone who's under 2021R, where you have the 8/16 dates, again, those can be determined with your trade date grid or date finder, as they call it. There are only 2 extenuating circumstances that are available for this particular set of participants that are under this program, and that's the 45 days or the equitable tolling date. Again, if you use the extenuating circumstances, you have to justify it and document how that was being met. So here is a section from a TRA claim details printout. So it's going to show your original petition number here. And this is towards the bottom of the printout. You're going to have your certification date, your expiration date. This is your employer. And then it continues here. You're going to have your impact date, your last qualifying separation date, and your benefit period end date. This benefit period end date is important when you're trying to do waivers. If the waiver is being issued for a period that would extend past this date, we cannot issue the waiver past this date. So just keep that in mind, that the waiver cannot go past this benefit period end date. So how do you determine your deadlines? I put a sample up here with the petition, with the information from these documents and these 2 slides ahead of here. And I just used the same dates, but we're going to apply it to a petition that is up to $97,999 and a petition that would be a $98,000 above petition. So your petition certification date was 9/19/19, as it says right here. Oops, went too far. Your participant's qualifying separation date was 12/9/19, so that's right here. So determine those dates. If this person was being served under petition 94/933, their 26th week from certification date is 3/19/20. Okay, so it's the 26 weeks from here. The 26th week from their qualifying separation date, this is a qualifying separation date, is 6/8/20. When you compare it, these 2 dates, you use the later of either one of those. So you would use 6/8/20. The participant in this case would need to have been enrolled in training or been issued a waiver by this 6/8/20 date to preserve their eligibility for TRA. If this was someone being served under a petition number 98,023, that they are under the 816 rules, so the 8th week from certification, with the certifications 9/19/2019, would have been 11/14/19. The 16th week from qualifying separation date of 12/9/19 would have been 3/30/20. So when you compare these 2 dates, it's the later of the 2. So you would have used 3/30/20 as the deadline date that they would have to have met enrollment in training or be issued a waiver. So here are the granting the extenuating circumstances. These are the extenuating circumstances that are available based on the trade law that the person would be enrolling under. So you can see all of them have 45 days available. All of them have the equitable tolling, of course. Some of them have the 60 days. And then some of them have, the only one that has state good cause is 2009, and 2015 has federal good cause. So just keep that in mind. You have to go in order. So like if there was someone coming in under the 2015 law, you would start, the 45-day would be the first one you would review to see if they meet that one. If not, then you would look at the 60 days upon proper notification. And if that one doesn't apply, you would go to federal good cause. If federal good cause doesn't apply, then you would do equitable tolling. So keep that in mind. You have to go in order. And then I've got all of the particular language related to each extenuating circumstance here. I don't think I need to cover these again. You guys can read these. If you have a question, if you're trying to enroll someone and issue them a waiver and you need to use one of these extenuating circumstances, you can reach out to us if you're not sure which one to use. We'll be glad to help you. We have people call us a lot, if they have a situation like this. Okay, well, which one do I use? For federal good cause, you do have to identify which of these 7 items you are using as part of that extenuating circumstance. And then equitable tolling is for all trade laws. And you can see you would have to just say which one of these you're using, justify why. The next section on the waiver form is your waiver criteria. And this is, again, this section, I believe these are pretty much the same for both of the forms for the people served up to $97,999 and the 2021R. So there's 3 waiver criteria that can be used. One of them is health, and that is if the worker is unable to participate in training due to the health of the worker. It does not exempt them from requirements relating to the availability for work, so they still have to actively search for work, even if they're on a health waiver, and they have to accept suitable employment also. Enrollment unavailable, this is the one we see most often. This is if your first available enrollment date is within 60 consecutive calendar days after the date on which a waiver is made, issued to the participant, or there's some extenuating circumstance, like someone, they're trained, they come in September and their training can't start until January. Well, we could issue them a waiver for that. And we can extend them if the waiver period is a little bit outside that 60 days. And then once the waiver is revoked, you have that 30 days to enroll them into that training program. And you would submit for merit staff approval within that 30 days. And that's when we like to approve those. We have to be within 30 days of the first start date of the training to so that it's just kind of a rule we have to be 30 days. The training not available, that one we have not used. This would be used if, for instance, the state did not have any training funds available to issue to the LWIS, or if for some reason, there just aren't any resources available to pay for the training. So it's just, that's one we've not used because we have been, we've been given a lot of money over the last several years. So we've never had to use that one. Enrollment unavailable is the most common one we see. And if for some reason during like a 30-day review, you'll see this statement here, we have to revoke the waiver immediately upon a determination that the basis or the bases for the waiver no longer apply. So if someone was on a health waiver and their doctors released them from whatever health issue that they had, and they're available to enroll in their training, then we would have to revoke the waiver at the point that we can enroll them in that training. So, does anybody have any questions about these waiver criteria? Or anything else I've covered? I have a couple of notes that say I need to slow down. I'm sorry. I'm so used to talking fast for a couple of these presentations that we've had. So one of the next sections on the waiver form is your signatures and appeal rights. The participant must sign the form and the career planner must sign it, and they must date their signatures. And then you'll see this appeals rights right here under on this form under most forms that we have. It basically just tells the participant, if you disagree with this determination, you may complete and submit a request for reconsideration or appeal. And they can send a letter if they don't have a specific agency form. The request has to be filed with IWDS, and it must be within 30 calendar days after the date at the top of, the letter, this determination that was made. And if the last date for filing is on a date that, for instance, IWDS is closed, then it can be filed on the next business day that they're open. And this is tells them how to file the request. They would do it by mail to IWDS, this PO box in Springfield, Illinois, or they can fax it to this number. And any request that is submitted by mail has to be postmarked by the date that is within that applicable time limit for filing. So it will be within this 30 calendar days after the date at the top of this particular form or letter that's being issued to them with that determination. And then the participant signs and dates that. And then the career planner is just signing an affidavit stating that they certify that information is correct to the best of their knowledge, and they're not aware of any intent to commit fraud, and that the information is complete and accurate. And this, you will see this appeal rights on the majority of our forms. There are a couple of them, I don't believe it's on there, but you will see it on the majority of our forms. So then the next section on the waiver form is your state merit staff determination section. This section should not be completed by a career planner or a participant. This is what state merit staff will complete when the waiver is uploaded and we review it. We review all of the documents, all of the case notes and everything related to it. Again, like we said, waivers are initially issued for a period of up to 60 days. And that waiver period is determined and we enter it, state merit staff will enter that date. And it is, the start date would be the date that we approve the waiver in the system. So that's where we put the waiver period would be, the start date would be the date that we approve it right here. And then we would count 60 days out, and that would be the to date. And that we will fill that in when we approve that actual waiver. We'll mark approved or denied. And then we will sign it and date it. We will upload the signed form to IWDS, and we will also return the copy in the mail to the career planner so they can have a copy that is signed by the merit staff with the original signature from us on it. If you have a situation where someone needs to extend a waiver, we can do that. We can continue it upon past that initial waiver period. In order to do that, you must submit that approval and the updated waiver form prior to the end date of that waiver expiration. So whatever that to date is, that end date of that waiver, that request needs to be sent in prior to that date and request that approval. You would complete the waiver extension section on the appropriate form number 3 that you have in your file. You're going to upload that form to IWDS, and you're going to update IWDS as well on the waiver status record. You're going to complete form 014A, which is the IEP modification form, and also upload that to IWDS. And then once all of that's done, then you're going to submit it to state merit staff for approval. And here's a section from the waiver form for participants covered under the 97,999, but this section is basically the same on both forms. This is your waiver extension information. We have extension 1 or extension 2. So it's been issued for the following period. You can enter the period, use your trade date grid or date finder to help you calculate the dates. The career planner must initial it and date it, and you would send that in for merit staff approval for that waiver extension period. And, obviously you need to case note that and do all of that. I have a whole set of instructions for how to do all of these steps for each particular type of thing we're going to go through. At least one of them, possibly 2 if we have some time. Another thing that can happen is a criteria change. Now, these criteria changes could be discovered during your 30-day reviews with the participant. Say there was a health issue and now that's cleared up. Well, now it could be switched to enrollment unavailable. So they can enroll within that next, within 60 days from this date. The change reason must be documented. It's documented on the form 003, the waiver form, documented in case notes. And you'll complete that waiver criteria change section that's on the form 3 waiver. And you're going to upload that to IWDS. You're going to also complete form 014A, the IEP modification form, again, for this type of a change as well. And you're going to upload it to IWDS. And then you'll also submit those criteria changes to state merit staff approval for all of that. And here's the waiver criteria section from the waiver form. It's the same on both forms. You're going to the waiver criteria is changed to, and you're going to put which criteria it's going to change to, your date of your change, what's the reason for the change, and you're going to put your career planner initials and date those initials. And that's what you would fill out. That's the section you would fill out. And we ask that you fill out any of these type of extensions or criteria changes and the revocation section on the copy of the waiver that has the state merit staff signature on it. Revocations gets a little, there's a lot to revocations. There's several ways a waiver can be revoked. A waiver can end by a participant request, an enrollment in training, the waiver expires, or it can be revoked for cause. What you'll do is complete your waiver revocation section on the waiver form. You're going to upload that to IWDS. You're again going to complete your IUP modification form 14A and upload that to IWDS. You're going to complete the trade training revocation letter, which is form 003D. And that is for the enrollment in training, failed to make contact for 30-day reviews, failure to enroll in a training program. Okay. And form 003D must be sent to the participant for them to sign it and return it to the career planner. And you would case note those dates that that was mailed to the participant and when they returned it. So you would also complete any additional appropriate letter if it's applicable. You would fill out trade waiver termination letter, form 003A, if a participant requested the termination of the waiver. And there's a trade waiver non-compliance letter, form 003B, if the participant is non-compliant with the requirement, which is your 30-day reviews. There's also a trade potential suspension letter, form 003C, if the trade eligibility requirements are not met. And I'll show you all of those forms as well. You would case note the date the letters are sent to the participant, and if it's a letter that has to be signed by the participant, the form 003D, you would also case note the date that they returned it. If they don't return it signed, then you just have to note that, you know, you did send it to them, and you'll have that case note when you send it to them, you know, and try in any attempts to contact them to get the particular letter back. And then you would submit all of that to state merit staff approval after you've uploaded the appropriate documents and the letters. And that's for the waiver revocations. Now here's the waiver revocation section from the form 3, the waiver. So you're going to mark the date the waiver was revoked. You're going to put the reason that the waiver was revoked. And this next question is written notice of revocation provided to participant. That is the form 003D. So you're going to mark that you've sent that and the date that you sent it. And then the career planner initials this and dates this as well. That's the one, that's what this written notification is. That's for the 003D, where they have to, you're telling them that you've revoked their waiver and they're acknowledging that by signing it. So for merit staff approval, here are the documents that you must upload and submit for a new waiver request. If you're initiating a new waiver, you're going to have a completed form 014 IEP. You're going to have your waiver form number 003, your training enrollment form 006, your transportation, your travel subsistence form, and your Google Map printout, and that's form 005. You're going to have your form 006D or 006E, which is your program tracking form for that participant. So this is all for a new waiver. This is what we would expect to see uploaded to IWDS when you're submitting a request for a new waiver for approval. And once that waiver is approved by merit staff, it is subject to 30-day reviews that are required. And those 30-day reviews get recorded in IWDS, and you record them on the waiver status, and you will also enter case notes for those. And the purpose for these 30-day reviews is to make sure that the conditions that the waiver was issued under, they still exist for that participant. If a participant fails to maintain contact for these 30-day reviews, then that's when you would send the trade waiver non-compliance letter, which is that form 003D, and it has instructions on it to contact the career planner immediately. If the participant fails for a second time to comply with the 30-day reviews, then you'll send a second non-compliance letter and you mark the second failure box on that form. After the second failure to maintain that 30-day contact, that's when the trade potential suspension letter is issued to the participants, form 003C, and that initiates the entry of the potential suspension request in IWDS. We're going to cover potential suspension requests later in our training at, I think it's like December 9th maybe. So we'll cover potential suspensions and how to do those entries and that. But chapter 9 of our policy manual is the potential suspension request chapter. So during a 30-day review, this is what's going to be determined. Okay, if your health was the reason for the waiver, then you have to ensure that the reason for granting that health waiver still exists. Make sure nothing's changed that could impact the development of their training plan or a potential start date for their training, or if something has changed, and you're going to describe that. And if the health reason no longer exists, then you can contact state merit staff for further instructions that could precipitate the change in the waiver criteria if that happens at some point. If enrollment unavailable, then you got to ensure that the training program will begin within that 60-day period, that they're meeting their extended benefit work test, and that is that they've registered for Illinois Job Link, they're registered with Illinois WorkNet, they are actively seeking work. And if requested by the career planner or IWDS, the participant needs to furnish tangible evidence of those work search efforts. They're not required to, only if it's requested. And they must accept any offer that's suitable work, including any of them that may have been referred by the local area, the state, whatever. If enrollment unavailable reason no longer exists, then contact state merit staff for further instructions, and we'll assist you on how to work through that process. If training not available is the reason, then the participant still has to meet that extended benefit work test. They have to register with those 2 sites. They have to actively engage in seeking work during the waiver period. And they have to furnish evidence of those work search efforts if it's requested, and accept any offer of suitable work, just like the other one. Some of the questions you might ask, what activities have they completed in finding a suitable training program for themselves, which they should have something in mind already. And if they're not making substantial progress towards that, there needs to be a valid reason for it. So if they're not working towards that, getting all their documents ready for the training institution and working towards getting that training enrollment established, then, there could be a reason to potentially revoke the waiver. There are 2 reports in IWDS that can help you with these 30-day reviews. There's a 30-day waiver review report that will just tell you when the most recent 30-day review was recorded, and it'll calculate the number of days since that review. So that'll tell you if you're getting close to that 30-day period. There's a TAA waiver review report, and that will tell you to count down the number of days until the next review is due based on that waiver issue date. So it's just a couple of reports that might help in, keeping you on track for the 30-day reviews. So again, like we've said, for correspondence on anything with the trade participant for their waiver or anything like that, send the emails to Susan, myself, and Lori. If you have a question about trade grants, then send it to Crystal. Always include that clear subject line that includes the LWIA, the purpose of the email, and the participant name. It helps us find them at some point later. Do not combine information for multiple participants in the email. We want each email to be about a single participant. It makes it much easier to keep track of them. Here's some websites that you can access for helpful information. This is where the trade forms are at. Here's your trade contacts at DCEO. Lori and myself have cell phones. The best way to get hold of all of us is via our email. That way we have a record of what we're communicating to you in case someone asks the same question later. This is the IDS trade unit contacts and their phone number if you need any information regarding TRA or RTAA, ATAA. They are your resource for that. Here's your rest of the upcoming training. So we have a couple-week break because some people are off on the 11th. We are at the state. We are going to cover training. This is going to be pretty intensive. We're going to cover the Form 6, the Form 5, the Form 6D and E. During that training session, we're going to go through types of training, the 6 conditions, case note. So it'll be a very informative training session. On December 2nd, we're going to cover attendance, benchmarks, breaks in training, and the biweekly attendance form, IEP modifications. On December 9th, we're going to have someone, I think it's Eric from IWDS, is going to be joining us to do the ATAA, RTAA training, and then we will cover the job search allowance and relocation allowances from DCEO. December 16th, we'll cover credential and measurable skills gains and exiting of participants. In January 6th, we're going to cover TAPR and GRS entries. January 13th, we'll cover appeals, fraud, overpayments, and monitoring. If there's any additional training anybody wants to have, then let us know and we can set those up. And this is the site where the training recordings are, along with the presentations and any materials and supplemental materials that we have. So I'm going to go and share a couple of other documents with you, so you can see some of the other things I was talking about. Some of these forms that we were referencing. And my computer is going to go crazy. Okay, well, let me do this. So I've seen some stuff in the chat saying some people didn't get all of the documents. We will get them posted out there on the site, hopefully later today. So we will have them. I apologize that you didn't get them. I did send the email out yesterday with the PowerPoint, and then today with the PDF versions of these instructional documents. So we have set up instructional documents for all of the different types of things involved in a waiver. So this one here is how to process a new waiver. And I want to note that the information in here is not for an actual person. It is a person on our test system that I set up. So I've not violated any PII rules. So just wanted to state that right at the top. So to issue a new waiver, I want to say, I hope these instructions are helpful to you, especially the new career planners. If, as you're going through these and you're walking through this process and completing these using this document, if you see something that isn't matching up, or there's an extra step that maybe isn't here that, you know, we didn't think of, then let us know, because we want to make this document available and as best it can be to walk anyone through the whole process and how to complete all of this. So to issue a new waiver, what the career planner is going to do is complete that trade individual employment plan, number 14, the IEP. And we did cover that with the instructional document during the October 28th training on eligibility enrollment. So see that particular training on that date and the actual IEP form with instructions that should be uploaded on the site on how to complete that Form 14. And if this is the first initial service for the participant, so you've not already issued the IEP, it's not already state merit staff approved, this is the process you will go through to issue that new waiver. And I did put a couple of different sections in here from the IEP to just kind of point out these are things that need to be done. So the waiver from the trade services section, number 23, the waiver from training, the initial waiver period, you can fill this in after state merit staff approve the waiver and provide that initial waiver period to you. But this needs to be updated at that point. So make sure that gets done. And a participant who is issued a waiver, they must initial and date this waiver responsibilities section on the IEP. There's also a general responsibilities section that is above this that they would also need to complete. So just keep this in mind, make sure that they do read this, they understand it, they've been informed of that, and that they initial and date this section. So then you're going to also complete the appropriate waiver form. And you're going to note the screen prints that I've got below are from that trade form, the waiver form. Just some little highlighting a few things. Do not enter this waiver period in this state merit staff determination. That's what state merit staff will complete when they're reviewing that waiver and approving it. Make sure you mark the correct waiver criteria on the form. And if applicable, then you would mark any of these extenuating circumstances and provide this detailed justification. I mean, this is not all the sections you have to complete. These are just some things that we wanted to note that, make sure that these are done on that waiver form. So the next step is to enter the IEP service record. And how you're going to do that is you're going to go to the application menu for the participant. You're going to click on this list enrolled services item, and it's going to take you to a screen, and you're going to click on add enrolled service. And once you click that, you're going to go to this screen, and from this screen, you're going to select TAA as the title, and you'll click next. And at that point, you will select the service level of individual employment plan from this dropdown. And there's several items in this dropdown, but you're going to select individual employment plan. You're going to put the start date, and you're going to click next. And usually the start date is whatever date you're entering that service. And then once you click that next, it's going to take you to this screen here, and you'll see the service level is IEP. It's going to tell you who created it, when they created it, last updated by. It's going to have your title of TAA here. You're going to search for your own net code here. And you put in your provider. You're going to fill out all of this screen that's relevant. This is a screen that I input from my entry on the test system. And then once you're done completing that screen for the IEP, then you're going to click save. And then when you hit save, that is going to transfer you to the IEP status record that's under the maintain TAA status in IWDS. And what you're going to do here is you're going to complete your status start date. You're going to enter your dated comment and put the date in front of your comment, please. If you know the IEP amount at that point, you're going to put that in there as well. You may or may not know it at this point. If you're issuing a waiver, you may not know it. And then you're going to click save. That will set this record to a pending approval status. And that's what merit staff will approve when you submit the request. Now, if this is an IEP modification, so your IEP is already state merit staff approved, then this is this is the process for the IEP portion of the entry. You're going to go to your list TAA status from your application menu for this participant. And then you're going to click on view that's for the IEP status record. That's going to take you into your IEP status record. And you're going to enter a dated comment in your comment box and put the dated comment above the ones that are already there. So you can see I put a dated comment establishing IEP for customer. And then you're going to click save. If you have the IEP amount approved, enter that as well, but you may not know it at this point because you have, it's a waiver. So you're going to hit save. Again, that's going to set that status record to a pending approval status that merit staff will review and approve. And if you're doing a modification, so you've already had the IEP approved, it's established, then you're going to be doing the IEP plan modification form, the form 14A. So you're going to fill out the necessary information. You would mark additional services and enter waiver in this list services box here. And you're going to fill out, obviously, all the necessary information, the participant name, the modification number, the date of the request, when's it going to take effect. But you're adding a waiver service, so you're going to mark additional services and list waiver in this box. Probably there's probably no effect on the IEP cost at this point because you're doing a waiver. The documentation to support the modification, did you get something from the participant, whatever. The what kind of documentation is supporting why you're doing this modification. This TRA eligibility section is new. We'll cover all of this when we cover the 14A in a few weeks. We are asking now for the information on the TRA weeks paid, how many weeks they have remaining, and then these questions about having enough remaining weeks to complete the training. If not, have they provided resource, some document to show that they have the financial resources to support themselves for completion of that training. So that's a new section. This is just the first page of the modification plan. I just wanted to point out this is where you would put that information for the waiver if it's a modification. The IEP is already approved. So then in either case, then you're going to do your Form 6, your Form 5, and your program tracking forms. These forms will all be covered in a couple of weeks when we cover training. You're also going to enter your 6 criteria for approval training case note. And how you do that is you're going to add your case notes here. You're going to go to case notes, add case notes. It's going to click you over to this box here. You can see the red stars. Those are required fields. You're going to enter your contact date. You're going to select TAA NAFTA from the drop-down options for program right here. You're going to enter a note category from the drop-down options. And you're going to select yes or no for confidential. Confidential should only be used if there's some sort of case note that you're putting in about some sort of medical conditions, legal issue, or some similar information that does not need to be a public case note for that participant. Because if you do mark it as confidential, no one else can see it. And we would need to see the 6 criteria of the training. So you don't mark it confidential for that particular note. You're going to enter a note subject, 6 criteria for training is what you would put in for this case note. And then you're going to actually enter the case note. I do have a note here that usually those case notes for 6 criteria are very long. A lot of people, I believe, type them in Word, or they have another separate document and they copy paste them in here, rather than trying to just keep typing in this little box. And then you're going to save and return, or save and add another, depending on which, if you have another case note you want to add, or save and return if this is the last case note you're doing. So once you do that, you're going to enter your waiver service in the system. And to do that, you're going to select your enrolled services here on your application menu for the trade application. You're going to do your add enrolled service when you get to this screen, and you're going to select TAA for your title and click next. And when you get to the service level and start date screen, you're going to select the service level of waiver, and you'll put a start date in here. You may not know the exact start date. You're going to put the date that you're submitting it for state parent staff approval. We usually try to approve those as soon as we get, that day that we get them, if we can. But we will change the dates if necessary when we approve it. And then you're going to, under select activity, then you're going to select issued waiver from your activity box and click next. And you're going to enter all of these relevant fields. Now, this is from an already completed waiver service record. The test system wouldn't let me add another one to this person since they already had one. But fill out all the fields, your planned end date, your current status, successful completion, whatever information. You can put comments in if you wish. And then you're going to hit save, and that will save it. And then once you save that, that will send you over to the waiver status record. Just like the IUP does, it will send you to the waiver status record. And you're going to enter all of this information, your status start date, your initial status end date, your waiver reason, and there's a drop down here. There are the 3 waiver criteria reasons listed here for you to select from. So this waiver reason must match the same waiver criteria that you've marked on the waiver form. So keep that in mind. You're going to put a comment in the box and make sure you put a date in front of it. This one is enrollment not available. If the person qualifies for any type of extenuating circumstance, you will click which box is applicable. All of these have to be answered no or if one of them's marked yes, the other ones have to be marked no. But you have to answer these questions regardless. Or I don't think it'll let you save it. But if an extenuating circumstance is used, you must mark the appropriate box for the one that was applied for this participant. And once you complete all of that, then you're going to save. That will set the status to a pending approval status for state merit staff approval at that point. And then you're going to add your case management services in the system. And this is where it gets interesting, because it depends on the certification that the participant is covered under. If they're covered under a petition up to $97,999, then on the trade application is where you're going to do your case management entries. I have this broken up to if it's an initial trade case management service record entry, and I also have it for adding an additional episode to an already existing trade case management service. So if it's an initial entry of trade case management service, you don't have that record entered at this point, but you're adding it now. You're going to click on List Enrolled Services for the application menu for the trade app for the participant. And then you're going to click on Add Enrolled Service. And you will click TAA for the title and click Next. And you're going to select Employment and Case Management as the service level from the drop-down list. And you'll enter a start date. So date of entry or the date the service was first provided. You're going to click Next. And you're going to complete all your required fields. For provider, you'll have to search providers. You'll click on the Search Providers button, and then it will take you to a screen. I think I have that on here. Yeah, here, search providers. So I just did show all. There's only a limited amount of information in the test system. So, but when you show all or put any of this information in and search, then it will bring up some selections that you can pick, you know, like for your local workforce area or whatever. So you would pick the appropriate one for that provider. And in this case, like it would be like one of the LWIAs. You're going to put your end date. If you don't really put an end date, if you do put an end date, and you would put the current status as successfully completed. And weekly hours, you can just estimate how many weekly hours, you know, you're providing case management to that particular person or that participant. Bridge program activity, if they're working through, if they're in a bridge program, then you would mark that yes, but typically we probably would see no for that. And you can put a comment in if you want. It's not required, but you will have to add a case note when you do these kind of entries. And you'll click Save. And so there's how to search the providers. And once you click Save, then you know, like here's one filled out with the information. I searched a provider and I put it successful completion. You know, I said, well, I'm probably doing 5 weekly hours, just an estimate. You know, the end date, which was the entry, the date that you entered it, and then just put a comment in here and then hit Save. And then it will kick you over to, it'll give you this informational message. You must do a case note when you're completing this kind of a same day service record. So you're going to enter your contact date, you know, your program, your case note category, it's confidential, case note subject, and then a case note. Now, mine, you know, keep in mind, these are very just basic case note. Be as detailed as possible in your case note about what is going on, what kind of case management you provided to the participant, and all of that. And then you will save and return. And that's how you do it if it's an initial trade case management service entry. If you already have an existing trade case management service record for this participant, then what you're going to do is you're going to enter an additional episode to it. But this is what it looks like after you enter that trade case management. So see, it shows up right here under your services. So that's what will happen. So you'll see this. And so if you already have that entered and you're adding an episode to the trade case management, you're going to do it very similar. You're going to go to list enrolled services on your application menu for the trade application. And then you're going to click on this trade case management service record here. And it's going to take you into that record. And what you're going to do is click on add additional episode here at the bottom. You're going to do kind of the same thing. You're going to complete all of these fields for the case note, and you're going to put your case note in. Oh, I messed up. I didn't put my date here. But you'll put your actual case note in. This is where you'll fill in your case note. You're going to save and return. And then once you do that, then it will update the end date for that trade case management service. This is what we want to see. We don't want to see like a bunch of entries that are just trade case management. We don't want to see a bunch of individual entries. Do the add additional episode if you already have that trade case management service record there. So it will update with that current end date based on your entry here, because you're just adding an additional episode. So whatever date you do that, it will add that as the end date. Keeps the start date the same, but it does update that record. So that's what we want to see. For the WIOA application, in this case, for participants served under 97,999, there is no entry to be made for case management services. If you have a participant that's covered by a certification number 98,000 and above, on the trade application, there's no entry. The reason for this is for participants under 2021R, we cannot provide case management service dollars to the field to provide those case management services. That has to be funded under another mechanism, which is generally through dislocated worker funds through the 1E grant. For the participants under 97,999, we are able to give the trade case management dollars to the field to serve those participants. So that's why we have these two different types of entries based on the certification number that they're being served under. So under this one, the no entry on the trade application, but on the WIOA application, if this is an initial entry for case management for this person, then this is the process. On the WIOA application menu, you're going to do kind of a similar thing. You're going to do list enrolled services. And then when you get here, you're going to add an enrolled service. And you're going to pick 1DC, 1EC for that title. And then you're going to click next. And then you're going to click career services from your service level from the drop-down list, because this is on the WIOA side. And click next. When you get to select activity, you're going to pick career planning case management. This should be entered on the WIOA application at the beginning when they are co-enrolled as well. So you're going to always have this career planning case management service for a WIOA and trade co-enrolled participants. So always do this entry. You're going to complete all these required fields. They're very similar screens. It's just one's on the WIOA application, one is on the trade side. You will mark all of this information just like you would on the trade side. You know, your end date, your successful completion, your comment, and then you're going to save it. It's going to kick you over to the case note screen again. You're going to fill out all the information related to the service being provided. You know, it's the same day service, not confidential. You're providing case management, and save and return. If there are any other additional WIOA funded services that you are providing to this participant, you would go through this same process and you would pick the appropriate service that is being provided by WIOA. For instance, if they're getting paid transportation expenses that are not covered by trade, or child care, dependent care, you know, if they're getting some sort of supportive service for, you know, if they need eyeglasses or new tires for the car, then definitely you want to add the same, you want to add a service record just like you're doing here for this career planning case management, but you'll pick a different one from different activity on this activity screen. You would pick like supportive services or whatever activity that you're providing for that person. So make sure you enter those additional WIOA funded services as they're being provided to that participant on that WIOA application. So once you save that career planning case management service record, this is what your services screen will look like. So it has the career planning service, it's the start and end date, and when it was created, who created it, and it was successful completion. So if you're adding a new episode to the career planning case management, you're going to do a very similar process again. You're going to go through list enrolled services on your WIOA application menu for the participant. You're going to click on this particular service that you entered previously. You're going to fill out the screen. You're going to go over here and do additional episode for this screen because you're adding additional episode to that. It's going to take you over to this same add case note screen, tell you that you got to do all this, and you're going to put in your contact date and all of that information, save and return. And when you do that, it will update the end date. Unfortunately, I was doing this all on the same date, so I can't show you where it updated the end date, but it's very similar to the trade application that I showed you before. And at that point, then you're going to upload your waiver. You're going to upload your IEP or the IEP modification form, whichever is applicable in this case. You're going to upload your training enrollment form, your transportation subsistence form, the Google Maps that goes with that, the tracking form, IBIS documents, and any other documentation to IWDS. And I'm going to walk through how to upload documents in IWDS now. So to upload, you are going to go to list all documents on the application. We prefer the documents for any trade approvals be added to the list all documents on the trade application for the participant, because that's where we're going to look. You're going to click on add document here, or you can click it here. I don't know why there's two buttons on the same screen. And when you get to this screen, you're going to click on browse right here, and you're going to go find your document, and you can either double click it or you'll click it once and select open on the screen that you'll get when you find the document. You're then to select the type of document, and I've got a screen print here that has some of the that has a part of the drop downs. There's a lot of stuff on this drop down menu for the type of document. So you can upload all the documents as a single document when you're requesting merit staff approval. And if you do that, we like you to select the one that is Form 014 DCEO Trade Individual Employment Plan as the type. If you upload them as separate documents, so you upload the Form 5 separately, the Form 6 separately, then please select the appropriate name. So you would select Form 5, the transportation subsistence, if that's the one. 6, you're going to do the trade verification, trade training enrollment, vice versa. 6D to 6E, select each document's name individually if you do them individual documents. That helps us to know exactly what document we're looking at when we're pulling that up. Like I said, this is only a sample of what's out there. There is a whole list. It's several pages long, but I just wanted to just show you kind of how they're individually listed. And you're going to send your email request to State Merit Staff for approval. If it's a modification, you will forward the last State Merit Staff approval for that participant and include your information here. This is what the email subject line would be for a waiver, and either a new waiver, or if it's you're adding a waiver, you would say IEP modification and waiver approval request. Can we have a new IEP and waiver approval for? You're going to list your participant name, the potential waiver period that you've estimated, and justification statement. Why are we issuing this waiver? What are the criteria, stuff like that. And we've added information in here about what State Merit Staff will do at that point. We're going to review your email, your IWDS entries, your uploaded documents. We're going to make sure all the entries are in there and all documents complete. If we find any issues, we're going to send an email back to you and say, okay, can you fix these issues? And then once they've been addressed, then we'll review those corrections And once everything's correct, we'll approve the service status records, and we're going to forward that whole email chain back and say, okay, we've approved this. If approval is not possible, and the request is denied, then the state parent staff will direct the career planner on the next steps to take in that whole process. So that is the document for new waivers. We have documents for recording the 30-day reviews, and we have some time, so I can go through that document as well. And we have a question from Diane Luosa. I would like to request clarification for petition 97-999 and below. When we have someone co-enrolled in WIOA, do we have to continue to update the case management line in WIOA or just the case management and trade? For participant under 97-999, you would do it on the trade side. Unless you're providing a case management service or some sort of service to them under WIOA. So we are providing, if you're doing something under WIOA, then you definitely want to update that case management side. If you're serving them only on the trade side, you would update the trade case management for those particular participants. Okay. So let me go get the recording the 30-day review document. Because that, I think that might be helpful. A lot of the other documents, they're very similar in nature. It walks you through the whole process, what screens to enter and all of that. It talks about the waiver. We have one for waiver revocations, one for waiver denial. We have one for waiver extensions, waiver criteria changes. I had it all as one big document, and we separated them yesterday just because I think it was more helpful to everyone to have them separate, so you can pull out just the one that you need. So when they issue a waiver, once again, this is not an actual person in here, it's in our test environment. You're going to record your 30-day waiver reviews in IWDS, and how you're going to do that is under the list TAA status on the application menu for the trade application for that participant that you're working with. And then you're going to click view for the waiver status record on the list TAA status. And when you get into that TAA status for the waiver, there's a button down here for 30-day review. You're going to click that. And then it's going to show list 30-day review. So it's going to show a review that I've entered. You're going to add a 30-day review. And when you get to that screen, you're going to enter your review date. You're going to select your method of contact.
I'm sorry, Sheila. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are not seeing the document that you're referring to. We see your desktop power screen.
Well, okay.
We saw your desktop of the beach. Looked very pretty though.
Oh, well, hey, let's all just go there. How about that? Okay, here. Maybe I picked the wrong thing.
There you go.
Is that it now? Okay.
Yeah, we see a PDF, yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let me go back to the beginning then. I'm sorry. I thought I clicked the right button. See, technology is challenging me today. Okay, so you're going to click your list TAA status on your application menu for the trade application for this participant. And you're going to click view beside the waiver status record from your list TAA status screen. And on that waiver status record, you are going to click this 30-day review button here down at the bottom. That will take you over to the list 30-day review screen. And then from there, you're going to say add 30-day review. And it will show you all of the reviews that have been entered previously on this screen. So when you get to that screen, then you're going to enter your review date, your method of contact, and there's a drop down for method of contact, and the options are in person, telephone, email, postcard, mail, or other. And then you're going to select the appropriate outcome from that. And the outcomes are waiver continuation approved, suspension request initiated, or waiver revocation initiated based on the outcome of this review. You're going to enter your comments about the review, what kind of information did you obtain from the review, and you're going to save. Now, you're also going to go through this whole case management service thing again, At this point, you are probably only adding an additional episode. So that is the only instructions we included here. We did not do it as a new one because you would have already entered that the case management records from entering the IEP and the waiver. So again, you're going to do your list enrolled status. You're going to click on the trade case management service record. You're going to add an additional episode. And it's going to kick you over here to the case note screen. You're going to add all this information and you're going to enter your case note about that 30-day review. So your note subject here would be like 30-day review. So, I mean, these are just, I took one set of screens, just please apply the information to what you're doing to what you're actually completing. Don't just take these things verbatim from here. These are just samples of what the screen looks like. If you're doing a 30-day review, your case note subject should be 30-day waiver review, you know, and you're going to do your case note based on that waiver review and save and return. And again, you know, on your WIO application, there's no entry. These are for participants served under 97,999. If you have someone served under 98,000 plus, then under trade, there's no entry. The WIO application, you're going to add a new episode to that career planning case management service record through the same process, the list enrolled services. You're going to click on the service, add an additional episode, and then fill out your case note screen information. Again, this would be, you know, 30-day waiver review. And again, any additional WIO funded services you're providing, make sure you add those on that WIO application in IWDS for that person. So this is where then we have instances where the participant fails to make that contact for your 30-day review. So this is where you're going to complete that Form 3B, the non-compliance letter for the first failure, send it to the participant. Now, when you do that, you're going to add a case note about mailing that letter and their failure to comply. And you're going to do the same way as all the other case notes. You add a case note. You're going to enter the contact date, you're going to enter the program, the note category, whether it's confidential, your subject, and your case note, and save and return or save and add another if you have another case note to enter. We want everything case note. So then if they're unresponsive after 7 days from that letter, you're going to mark the second failure, and you're going to go through that whole process again. You're going to do your case management services, add your case management for that letter, just like you did all the others. Click on the service record, make your entries, you know, add an additional episode. You're going to add your case note information. Under WIOA, no entry for the 97,999. For the 98,000, you're going to do the WIOA case management service. This is all the same. It's all the same stuff. I just repeated it here. It's like, because if someone is doing a 30-day review, they need to know the whole process. Then I've just included all of the steps for all of it. And if they do contact the career planner within the 14 calendar days after that second one, then that's when you're going to do your case management services again to say, you know, they did contact, you know, and you're going to continue the waiver and or what the outcome was and things like that. So you're going to go through that whole same process of adding those case management services either on the trade application or WIO application based on what certification they're being served by. So then here's the 98,000. It's all the same information, but you have the whole process for each particular thing. If that participant fails to contact the career planner within the 14 calendar days following, then, you know, after that second non-compliance letter, that's when the potential suspension request kicks in, and you will see Chapter 9 in our draft policy, and we'll cover potential suspensions on, I think it's December 9th, potentially. And then following IDS adjudication of the PSR, you would contact state merit staff for further instructions on how to proceed with that participant and, you know, their status in the system and the program. So that's the 30-day reviews. Like I said, we do have instructions for if they're recalled to employment. waiver denial, waiver extension, waiver revocations, and waiver criteria changes. So recall to employment, I'm going to go ahead and open that one so I can walk through that one with you, because it's a little different. It has a couple different steps. Okay, does everybody see that? Okay, so if during this 30-day review with the participant, you find out that this person was either recalled to employment or they have found employment, new employment, you're going to record an employment record in IWDS, and you're going to do that through the application menu on the trade side. You're going to do the employment history here. And I had to steal these screens from another PowerPoint, so they aren't going to look exactly the same as these other ones. You're going to, when you get the list work history up, you're going to click on Add Job, and you're going to complete these fields. And the screen is broken up into different pieces here. You're going to complete the fields of your employer name. You can search on the employer name, or I think you can actually type the employer name in here. And you're going to fill out all the information that you can. And this is how you would do the search, like you would do, the whole state, whatever, to find all of the stuff. And then you'll select the appropriate employer once it comes up, once you have the employer in the feed, if you're doing a search. And you're going to fill in all the fields that you have information on. I mean, as much as you can would be great. Primary occupation. This is just a part of the screen. And then what you want to do is to make sure if this, if they're a TAA participant, trade participant, you want to mark this TAA return to work as yes. If the employment is ATAA or RTAA eligible employment, then you would also mark this ATAA RTAA employment as yes at that point too. You're going to complete all the screens, the NAICS and the ONET. You would do a search to find those. It'll take you to the screens that you need to do to put that information in. And so this is the key thing about the employee, employment. If they're a TAA participant and they've returned to work, then you want to mark this yes. And if they're going to get ATAA or RTAA, definitely mark this yes. You can come back and change this one if they are accepted and approved to be eligible for RTAA or ATAA. So you're going to save it once you get that all completed. And then you're going to enter a return to work status record in IWDS. Now, anytime a participant returns to work in trade, that doesn't have to be found out during the 30-day review. You can find it out at any point in time. This is the process you need to go through. You need to add the employment record, and you need to add this return to work status on the trade application for the participant. You're going to go to list TAA status. You're going to add a TAA status from your list TAA status screen. And you're going to select return to work from the status dropdown on that screen. And your status start date should match the first date of employment that is showing up on your job record that you have just entered. So whatever date they started the employment should be the status start date. There is not a status end date for return to work. You won't do waiver reason or suspension request reason or cease participation reason. You'll put in a comment in the comment box here, participant return to full-time employment or list of part-time employment. And then down here, TAA return to work, part-time. Are they working part-time? Yes or no? So we need to fill that out as well. And then you would click save to save that record. And you're going to add all of your case management services, just like you do with any of the other ones. At this point, you will be adding additional episodes. It's all the same set of instructions that we've walked through for the other ones. Same screen prints for all of it. It's all the same basic set of instructions that you've already been through or that we've covered. An IEP modification is not required for employment that is not suitable unless the new employment affects the training plan. So keep that in mind. If it does affect the training plan, then an IEP modification is required. So just wanted you to note that. And again, any additional WIOA funded services, make sure that you are entering those on the WIOA application side of things for the participants if they are getting WIOA services. I think I've covered all of the materials, and I mean, the waiver criteria changes. Basically, the screens are all pretty much the same as the new waiver stuff. It just walks through the criteria change part. The denial instructions just walks you through how to do a waiver denial, and the extension if you have an extension. Waiver revocations. We could probably go through those because those get a little challenging sometimes when you have a waiver revocation. Let me walk through that. A lot of it's the same. There's a set of instructions that you will complete for all waiver revocations, and that's what this first set of instructions are. You're going to do the IEP modification form 14A. You're going to mark waiver change and revocation at the point that you're doing the waiver revocation, and you can see that if you're changing criteria, then you would mark waiver change and criteria, or waiver change and date extension if you're doing a date extension. So those are new on the form 14A. We hope to have that form out on WorkNet within the next couple of days. There are new waiver forms out on WorkNet that we've updated as well. So just make sure you go to WorkNet to get the most recent documents to use. So you're going, when you're revoking a waiver, and anytime a waiver ends, you have to revoke it. It doesn't matter what the reason is for the waiver ending, you have to do this form 003D trade training revocation letter. So you're going to revoke the waiver by clicking on the TAA status screen on the trade application. And then you're going to click view for the IEP status record. You're going to enter your dated comment in the comment box. Revoking waiver due to enrollment in training is what I have here. You're going to do your case note, providing the date the revocation letter was sent to the participant. When it's returned and signed, you're going to upload that letter in IWDS, and you add your case note. So you add your case note just like any other case note that we've shown, your contact date, all of the information. And then on the state merit staff approved waiver, under this waiver revocation section, that's where you're going to enter the date the waiver is being revoked, the reason that you've sent that form 003D to the participant, and the date you sent it, the career planner signature and date. You're going to upload the waiver, the IEP modification form, the revocation letter, and if applicable, the termination letter or any other letters that are applicable to this, like if the participant wanted to terminate it. You're going to upload those in the upload, list all documents, add your document. You can upload them as a single document, or you can upload them as individuals. Again, if you do individuals, make sure you identify what each one is separately by picking the appropriate name. Add your case management services on here. You're probably going to add an additional episode to these. And again, these are things you're going to do for every waiver revocation. These are the steps you're going to follow for all of them. Towards the end, we go through the process for each particular type. So if the participant requests to end the waiver, then you're going to inform them the impact that it's going to have on their TRA and potential HTC eligibility. They're going to sign the trade form 003A, which is the trade waiver termination letter, which verifies that, yes, they're asking for this revocation. And you will enter a waiver revoked status record in IWDS on the trade application. And you'll do that through the list TAA status. And you're going to view beside the waiver from training requirement status record. You're going to enter the waiver end date on the status end date here. You're going to enter a dated comment in this comment box, okay? And then you're going to save it. And then you're going to add a TAA status. And you are going to actually physically add the waiver revoke status. You're going to pick the waiver revoke status from here, your status start date and end date, which you only need the start date. On this particular record, it would be the date you're entering it. My instructions, I'll update the instructions. You're going to enter a date in the comment box. and you're in a comment, and then you're going to pick your revocation reason. So if it's because the participant is ending it, then you're going to pick other. And you're going to save it. If the waiver expires, then you're going to list TAA status. You're going to do kind of a similar process. You're going to view on the waiver status record. You're going to put the end date, a comment in the comment box, and save it. And then you're going to add a TAA status, which is your waiver revoked status again. And you would also pick other, but in your comment box, you should detail what the waiver revocation is for. That, this one was because, what did we say this one was? I've forgotten already. This one was for expiration. So waiver expired. You would just put that in your comment box on the waiver revoked status record right here. And click save. All of these do require Merit staff approval. If you're enrolling in training, you would not enter a waiver revoked status record. What happens on an enrollment in training when Merit staff approve the enrollment in training service record, that automatically enters the waiver revoked status record in IWDS. So you do not enter a waiver revoked status for an enrollment in training, because you will have other entries that will be approved that will create that waiver revoked status. If the revocation is due to failure to make contact for the 30-day review, you're going to do your potential suspension request, and then you're going to see the instructions for this suspension condition in the potential suspension request chapter and follow those instructions. If they fail to accept suitable employment while on a waiver, then you're going to do this process outlined in the potential suspension request chapter. We didn't want to repeat every step in every single chapter because our policies would be really long. So we're referring you to the correct chapter based on what kind of failure to comply you would follow. Now, if the person failed to enroll in a training program that became feasible and appropriate, then you're going to follow this process. You're going to enter the waiver revoked status again, just like you did for the other ones, by going to your TAA status. You're going to click on your view for your waiver. You're going to enter your waiver end date and your comment in the comment box, then save it. And then you're going to go and add your TAA status again. And that's where you're going to put in your waiver revoked status. And you would pick, again, you would pick the other reason for this, but detail what the reason is in your comments. And you're going to save it. Now, for all revocations and waivers, you will send an email request to State Merit staff for approval. You will take the last State Merit staff approval email for that participant, and you'll forward it, and then use this format for sending in your revocation. So there's one for the participant termination, and it's because the email subject line will change based on what type of revocation you're doing. Here's the enrollment in training, and the enrollment in training one will have a lot more information because you're going to enroll them in training. So we need the information on the training program itself. For expiration or cause, which would be failure to comply with the 30-day reviews or for failure to accept suitable employment, then here's your email information. And then we have what State Merit staff will do. Again, we're going to review everything. If we find issues, we'll send it back asking for corrections. Once the corrections have been made and we review them and they're fine, and we're able to approve, we'll approve it and send back the approval email. And if approval is not possible, we'll walk you through the next steps of how to proceed. The rest of the instructional things, they're very similar. They walk you through the whole process just like this does. I really hope these documents are helpful to you. I do want to show you a couple of these letters so you can see what they look like. Okay, can everybody see the termination letter?
Yeah, we can see that, Sheila.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so this is the trade waiver termination letter. This is if a participant requests the termination of the waiver. So, you fill in the participant information, please terminate my waiver effective immediately for the following reason. So, they need to provide a reason, they sign it and date it. So that is the form 003A for participant termination. That is out on WorkNet. All the forms are on WorkNet for you to access. So I want to show you a couple more. So here it is. So this one is the trade waiver non-compliance letter. This is for someone who fails to make contact for their 30-day reviews. So this is the box you would mark for the first failure to contact. And then if they do not contact you within that 7 calendar days, then you would send them a second failure. And if they don't contact you within the 14 calendar days, then that's when you would revoke the waiver. Now, if you get through the first one and then you send the second one and then they contact you, then this whole process starts all over again. So like if then they fail to contact you again for the 30-day review, then you would start here with the next first failure. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, you would send this for the first failure, this one for the second, and then you follow the process like we have in the in our policy chapters. So that's what the waiver non-compliance letter looks like. The potential suspension request letter, show that next. So this is if you are doing a potential suspension request for this participant. The reasons that a potential suspension request can be issued are the participant was provided a waiver and refused suitable employment. The participant enrolled in training but failed to start. They failed to maintain full-time or part-time as appropriate status in a training program. They failed to attend all scheduled training classes or other training activities scheduled by the training institution. They did not meet one of the qualifying requirements for eligibility in a trade TRA program. They're non-compliant with trade training requirements, including alleged fraud. If someone, is alleged to have committed fraud. The participant has failed to meet trade training benchmarks and completion TRAs in jeopardy. And there's a couple options under that one. Either the training plan will be modified or it cannot be modified. So we walk through all of these things in the trade potential suspension policy, and we will cover those in a few weeks. So I just wanted you to see this, that if there was a potential suspension request that needed to be done for a participant, this is the letter that would be sent out to them. And one last letter is the form 003D, which is the waiver revocation letter. Now, this is the letter that must be sent out for all revocations of waivers. It is required to be sent out. So it's a notification that we're revoking the waiver. So you've got your date, your participant information, the date of the revocation, which is the date merit staff approved the revocation. So and then you mark what reason. It's being revoked at your request. Your waiver has been revoked on the date of its expiration. It's been revoked due to enrollment in a trade approved training program. It's been revoked due to failure to make contact for your 30-day review, as noted on Form 3B, which is the form you will send for the second, the failures to maintain contact. And your waiver has been revoked due to failure to accept suitable employment, or your waiver has been revoked due to failure to enroll in a training program that became feasible and appropriate. So this has to be sent out, and the career planner signs it, and the participant is supposed to sign it and send it back. You have to document when you send this out, so we need to know the date in case notes that you're sending this out. You also need to document in case notes the date the letter was sent back, and you should upload this to IWDS. This Form 3D has to be sent out for every revocation of a waiver, and waivers have to be revoked And this letter is required for anytime you do a waiver, you're going to have to send this letter out to the participant at the point that it's revoked. So keep that in mind. So that's the letters that apply to waivers. And I did send the instructional documents out this morning. I've seen some chatter that not everybody received all the documents, and that we will have them posted later out there, and we'll let you know when they're posted. So I apologize that if you didn't get the documents ahead of time, but we will get them posted on the site where everything is posted. Is there any questions? Because I think I've covered everything I was going to cover today. Is there any questions that need answered? No questions? Okay, well, I guess we're done for today. We will see you in 2 weeks on the 18th for the training on actual training, you know, like enrolling someone in training, and we'll cover several forms during that one, the enrollment process. So that one will be pretty intensive. It'll probably take the entire time. So no one has any questions. I guess we're done for the day, and we'll let you know when the documents are posted, and we'll get the documents for the training sent out hopefully before the presentation on that Thursday. We'll try to get them out on Tuesday or Wednesday of that week.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. And then also I wanted to put in the chat for everyone just the registration information for the 18th. You should have been sent a calendar invite. I know some people have reached out to me, and I've sent the PDF of all the trade trainings, but just in case you missed it, I'm going to go ahead and put that link to register for the 18th if you haven't registered yet, to go ahead and register for that. So I put that in the chat.
Oh, yes, definitely. Thank you.
And I think that's all we have today. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Thank you to Sheila and the trade unit and Susan Boggs. And we will see everyone on the 18th.
Okay. Thank you.